This is part 2 of my talk, Metadata is a Plural Noun. I'm Karen Coyle. In part 1, I talked about the importance of data in metadata. In this part, I'm going to talk in particular about library metadata, which has undergone quite an evolution in modern times, from the book catalog, such as this one from the 1800s, to the card catalog, originally with handwritten library writing, to the printed card catalog. These printed cards were produced by the Library of Congress and later by OCLC. If you look at this, you should realize that what this is essentially a document. It is a document, a small document, a very tightly controlled document that describes, in this case, a book. The same data that we use for the card catalog, which for these printed entries was using a machine-readable format called MARC format. This same data is what got carried through to the online catalog. When we went from printing cards to going online, we didn't really change what the data looks like. And if you take a look at the MARC record, it really is a markup of text. In a few cases where data was needed to do some kind of computation, the text, in this case on the right, C1983 period, was also reproduced in a data format, a fixed data format, as you see on the left. But in many cases, very important bits of information in the MARC record are not really treated as data. They are in textual fields. So, for example, these two fields show an ISBN, a very important piece of information when you're trying to link books together or do any kind of control on the identity of books. And yet the ISBN doesn't have its own place as a datum in the MARC record, but is in a field that can also receive textual information, such as, this is the hardback version. The same thing is true for the pagination statement and the statement of the size of the book. In here, the pagination, 10 pages done in Roman numerals, 228 pages done in Arabic numerals, and 23 centimeters in height. The data, the X228 and 23, are embedded in what is essentially a text string, and it takes some effort to pull that out in a way that a computer can do computation on it. Of course, anything that is in the record as a general note is essentially textual and intended for humans to read, not for computers and not for computation. So the main message here is what we need to do is to produce more data and less text, at least in the underlying record and the underlying encoded computerized data that we create. Users can still see text, but we need the data underneath there. Let me give an example, a couple of examples of what you can do if you do have. As an example of what you can do when you have data coming out of library catalogs, this is a project by the OCLC Research Labs, where they have basically data mined the OCLC database of MARC records. Because of this, they can extract information that would be very difficult for a person to perceive by doing a search and retrieving just bibliographic records. They can come up with statistics like how many works and how many libraries hold the works, which gives you an idea, a quantitative idea of the importance of the author. The various subject headings that have been used. They can produce a timeline that shows how many works have been published over the years, both works by Emily Dickinson and works about Emily Dickinson, so you see that this is an important author. The most widely held works are available, so you see what are probably the most important works of the author. You can get the various book covers and also related subjects. Similar to this is the work being done by the Open Library. However, for the Open Library, the difference is this is not a question of data mining, but this is the actual catalog. So the Open Library has ingested in bibliographic data from libraries, from Amazon, from publishers, and stores it not in the traditional MARC record, but stores the data to the extent that it can as data. And because of that, the Open Library is able to take different views rather than showing users a catalog unit that has the author, the title, the subjects. It's able to treat each of those as having a separate entity. So, for example, each author can have a web page, and this page is extracted from the database when a search is done. It hasn't been created by a person. You can have information about the author, the books by the author, subjects that have been associated with works by the author, places the author has written about, people whose names are associated with the author, probably through the bibliographic records, time periods, Wikipedia entries, the person's website, etc. In addition, subjects can also have their own identity, in a sense, on the Open Library. So a subject like love has a certain number, 5,000 books. You see the covers and you can cycle through the covers. The Open Library is able to extract data, so it can extract data, for example, of how often that subject heading is used for years of publication. And when you click on a particular year of publication, it reduces the set to the works from that year. There are related subjects, related places, people who are related to that subject heading in the records, and related times. And you also can have prolific authors. Here's one we should all know, William Shakespeare, and publishers that publish in this area. So let's look at, from this we can go to William Shakespeare. We get that author's page, and we also see books by the author. And when you look at books by the author, and you're seeing here the author's portrait, various things, places, etc. And when you click on an individual title, then you can see whether the book is available to be read online, to be downloaded, to find in a library, and if it happens to be in print, which most of these are too old for that, then you can also find it in a bookstore, such as Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So this is a different view of bibliographic data, and it's a view that is made possible by some relatively minor changes in how the data is stored and the approach to treating the data less as text and more as data. That ends part 2 of Metadata is a Plural Noun. Part 3 will introduce the semantic web.